snowy every day. So again, thanks for everyone who braved the weather. Have a great turnout. As you know, the museum is currently in a hiatus. We're doing a lot of renovations. A lot of the work's being done on the second floor. You know, if you come in today and say, well, it all looks the same, believe me, there is a lot of work being done. So to reopen February the 4th, we hope that many of you come back then and see the changes and see a lot of the new exhibits we have within the facility. We are broadcasting today on web TV with the paper, so we would ask that cell phone off or on vibrate if you can, because it is going to be broadcast. Pick that sound up very easily. Appreciate them doing that with the weather. To have that as another option for people to view was a wonderful opportunity. Okay. So with that, I don't have much more. I'll let Jean come up. She wants to talk about next month or the next History Hunters program. So with that, and I want to thank Jean. You know, last year we had a tremendous lineup of programs, and she's starting January off with a great program. Obviously, thanks for all your work. We really do appreciate it.
Glad to see you all here today. I was actually out asking people to be sure to come today because I was afraid nobody would come because of the weather. Before I get into today's program, I want to talk about the next history meeting, which is March the 27th, and it's going to be completely different than anything that we've ever had. A few months ago, trying to find something worthwhile on TV, which you all know sometimes is a very big challenge. I ran across the program that's gone on on yes. It was called Everglades of the North. Now I'm really not too much in natural history, but I got so engrossed in this I watched it 2 times since. Even went to the expense of getting this. So in March, this is the story of the Grand Kankakee Marsh. There was a Kankakee River in Indiana, but I didn't know much more than that. But I love that. Did you know the King of England have been here in Indiana to hunt there? Presidents of the United States have been there to hunt. Very, very interesting. So, that's going to be our program. And it's not been confirmed, but I have a lady who is from that area and very knowledgeable about the subject. She will be here for the Q&A. Now today's speaker has been somebody I've known for a long time, and he stands out in the crowd. Notice right now he hardly gets through that door. And I wish Judy had felt like coming today because she's like this. So, Clyde Lovellette was the first player to play on an NCAA championship team, not an Olympic gold medal you might get to see today, and on an NBA championship team. His next Brady's a Hoosier. Is served as the sheriff in Garfield County, but can't imagine somebody wanting to run from him. And has taught history, and of course taught applied sport. How many years did you teach applied sport?
20.
Many years applied, so I'm sure he had a big influence on the students of applied. So today, Clyde Lovellette.
I really don't need this thing, but I don't know if it's on or not. It is?
It didn't very loud.
Not very, I'll yell at you. Well, it's nice being here all day, and if I hadn't been here today, I'd have been at home. But Gene wanted me to come and speak to you, and I don't do it anymore, being that you get to a certain age, and it's really good to see gray-headed people, because mostly the older people know who I am. And I could have a show of hands to find out if you do know who I am. But I am a Terre Haute. I'm an Indiana native. And what we're going to talk about today, I have no idea. Gene asked me if I had notes, and I had no notes, and I said it's in here. And sometimes it goes away in here. But I'm going to try to tell you about my growing up and why I decided to take up basketball. And I got pretty tall. Didn't start out that way, but I ended up that way. I was born in Petersburg, Indiana, south of Terre Haute. I was born on the dining room table. I'm sure they had a hospital. I'm not quite sure, but I was born on the dining room table. Over 10 pounds, my mother said. I don't know how long I was, but my mother didn't have any more children after me. So I'm assuming that she didn't have more children after me. She had 4 sons and 4 daughters. And when I was 3 years old, my dad was a railroader. And at 3 years old, we moved to Terre Haute. He got transferred. He was an engineer for 18 years. And as a kid growing up in Terre Haute, I thought that I'd like to be an engineer on the railroad or a state policeman. I never had any idea about going on to college, high school, and then go to work, follow my dad's footsteps. But Dad never thought I'd become a railroader. It was a hard job, but or be a policeman. But I got too big for everything. Now you got to remember, back in my day when I was playing, I had no idea of playing. Junior high, I had no idea of playing basketball. I was as big as a straw. I had no meat on. I was gangly, and they made fun of me because I was so tall. I didn't fit well in a school desk. But anyway, I got taller, and I wouldn't go out there on the floor. I remember Mr. Cartwright, who was my coach at McLean Junior High. He wanted me to come out because I was so tall. And I told him I would go out and be in a pair of shorts. Because it was, my legs were, well guys, they were about round, and those shorts were pretty good size, and it would make me awkward. And I couldn't really chew gum and walk at the same time. I was really clumsy. And I kept fighting and said no. So anyway, out there, and sure enough, I looked gawky, thin. I decided to start putting some weight on me. When I got to, I was 6'4" when I entered high school, and weighed a little over 200 pounds. And then I got taller, bigger, and I started enjoying basketball. And I really did, because I was a dominating figure. Because the other kids, as big as I was in high school, 6'3" would be a. So I enjoyed the high school days. And again, the idea of college. I was very happy to play high school ball, come out, and be a railroader, or be something, just go to work. In my college career, I was recruited by about 50 schools that wanted me to play. High school as far as academics. I think I just got by. Then I thought it was that smart people. Play ball and not go to class, it'd be great. But I have to go to class. Anyway, a man came over from Kansas, the name of Fall Gallen. Fall Gallen, and I don't know if a little history about the basketball. It was invented by Dr. Naismith, Springfield, Massachusetts. Dr. Naismith was the first basketball coach at the University of Kansas. Fall Gallen was the next coach at Kansas under Dr. Naismith. So the legacy of basketball from Kansas, now Indiana has tradition as one of the best basketball states in the country. And at that time, Branch McCracken was the coach in Indiana. Sidetracked a little bit here. When you play for a coach that played in Indiana, graduated from Indiana, and I have a coach from Indiana, and I had the third coach from Indiana. So I think that they, Branch McCracken thought that I was coached by Indiana graduates, that I was going to Indiana. Just, and I was at it down there visiting, and I was almost signed up. Then Fall came along, and he talked to me, and he told me one story. He said, if you come with the guys I have now, and most of our Kansas, well, there was two from Illinois and myself that would go, that we will really do things your senior year. We will win the national championship in Helsinki, Finland, and represent the United States and win a gold medal. Then I thought that he's a prophet. He's got to be a prophet. Whether he's lying to me or not, no idea. But it sounded really good. And so to go to Kansas. Now, I honestly believe that most of the people in Indiana does not like very much. Because it takes time to get recognized in Indiana. But anyway, I went to Kansas. And I haven't regretted it because I love the people in Indiana, the people in Kansas, and I just thought it was great. It was a small town in Lawrence. The school was small. Indiana was huge. I've been a number down there, 1,000 students at Kansas at that time. And I just sort of just felt it as a town. It was a town to me. The people were great, and they didn't try to overpower you with how great. It was just a great mesh for me. My mother liked it, my dad liked it, my brothers liked it, and we had a great time. And he came true. In 1952, we did win the national championship. And we went to Helsinki. We won a gold medal. And those two prophets came together that 1952. So my college days was finished. And I had a great time, great 4 years. 1 year we couldn't play. Freshmen could not play ball back in those days. So we just, and so during that time in college, I made all conference 3 years in a row, all American 3 years in a row. Now I'm telling you this because nobody writes about me anymore in the paper. So you just gotta, every once in a while get in front of people. When you could leave, but that'd be embarrassing. Get up and leave me, but I can tell you all about what I did. But at the end of this, I'll tell you other things too. But anyway, so I became an All-American 3 years in a row. I was the leading scorer in the nation in 1952, the best scorer in the country. And in that, I was the most valuable player at the 1952 NCAA tournament. And then I went to Phillips for 1 year. Phillips Petroleum Company was probably the best club in the country, and the pros had no match. Because back then, when I went into the pros, we had 4 teams in the East and 4 in the West. So not like today, when they have 30-some teams or 30 teams in the NBA now. But I wanted to go to play ball for one reason, because the gentleman that sort of helped me get through Kansas was the president of Phillips Petroleum Company, and he was also a Sigma Chi, and I'm a Sigma Chi. That doesn't make too much difference, but I am a Sigma Chi. So he was a Sigma Chi, so I felt an obligation to go and play 1 year, in which I played 1 year for Phillips, and then the pros come knocking. Went to pros, was 12 years of pros, 11 years, played. I got hurt 1 year, didn't play, Achilles tendon, tore, and I couldn't lift my foot. So I would have 12 years in the NBA, but I only played 11. I played with guys that you probably heard of, George Michael. I met him for the first time in Minneapolis when I signed with a contract in Minneapolis. And he, I don't know if there's any Italians in here, but not Italian, but I did make fun of him because he was so rough talking. And I met him, well, it was unfortunately the way I met him, because they didn't have my uniform in Minneapolis. So his number, and his number is 99. And I put it on, and I came out and I sat down on the bench because they're going to take some pictures. Well, George is down there working up. Now, I didn't know George Michael. I didn't know what George Michael was. I didn't know how great a ball player was. Because in Indiana, we didn't get much news back in the 40s. And so I didn't know him. But then I found about him because he came from underneath the basket. And he came directly down to me and said, "Take off." And he wasn't very polite. He used words that I hadn't for a long time. And they weren't the words that you would normally at the dinner table and talk. That was kind of weird. But he scared me. Now I'm 9, about 245 then. Well, George was 6'10", about 270. And he just overshadowed me and scared me. And he was telling me to take my shirt off. And then the coach, general manager, came up and said, "George, we'll fix it." So they 99, and they made it all zeros. And so I was a 0-0, and he was happy, and then I got the picture taken. And then I don't think George and I really got together very much socially, and especially on the court. He was an individual that could get your head off and feed it to you and not think anything about it. I really don't think mother. If she was on the court with him, I really don't think he would like it. But anyway, I played pro for 11 years, and I enjoyed it. And I've always told people that basketball for nothing, because I really love it. And I think if you don't love the thing that you're doing, you're in the wrong business. And I really enjoyed playing against guys that you could rough up, that you could physically beat. It just, the whole gamut that I really enjoyed. And then I came out of the pros. Of course, I made all pro. Of course, I was in all-star games and things like this. And I didn't make a lot of money. No money like they make today. My first year, my first contract was $15,000 with a $10,000 bonus. I thought that I was making a ton of money back then. In 53, 54, in the early I made a good living. But I didn't know that I was making. just love the game of basketball. And I today, if they're out there playing for the fun of the game, and then whatever happens, dude, if you give 100, then you'll be fine. If you give a coach 100% while you're on the court, then you're great. But if on the court you give him about 50%, it's not a very good percentage that you're giving that coach. So that brings me down to my public life. Quit basketball, came back. And you've always heard of the people that haven't found your niche. Well, I hadn't found my niche. A lot of ball players that come out and making all that money, it sort of goes to their head and they spend a lot of money, and then when they come out of the pros, the only thing they have is their pension that the NBA gives them. Start wondering what are they going to do, what are they going to do now. I had no worries about what I was going to do, because I could always make money and feed my family, and I wasn't concerned about how much money I was going to make. So when I was in the radio station, selling ads, broadcasting, games, color. And then somebody came to me and said, would you like to get into politics? Didn't know a thing about it. I didn't know a thing about the sheriff's department, but I knew I wanted to be a policeman way back in high school. And of course, it was a Republican county chairman that came to me. And my family are Democrats. All my family are Democrats. And when I told my dad I was going to be running on the Republican ticket, he said, well, how am I going to vote for you? So I said, well, Dad, you don't have to vote for me, you know. But anyway, of course he did. But I remember when a story that he told me that after I won the election, and because he was at the Dilley Park is where we voted, and he said, I walked up to the and they said, hello, Mr. Lovellette, here's your ticket. And it was a Democrat ticket. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to change. He said, give me a Republican. And understandable, she said. He voted for me the first time for a Republican, and I don't think he voted again for a Republican. I went back to the Democrat. But anyway, so I was a sheriff for 4 years, and too much politics for me in the sheriff's department, for me. Because the first thing I did, that all my deputies were Democrats and Republicans. Unheard of back in my day. It was usually a plum job that all Republican sheriff would be all Republican deputies. So that was sort of a rubbing the Republican Party the wrong way. And then I went to bat for the deputies to become the deputies that would not move. We got to do the State House that they're permanent now, not the sheriff, but the deputies. And I fought very hard to recognize that just because the sheriff changes doesn't mean all the deputies are out of the job. And whoever's a sheriff, Democrat or Republican, has his own men in it. And that didn't sit too well with the Republican Party. So when I ran again, I ran very half-heartedly, and of course I got beat. But I won the general election, and I went re-elected. And the Democrats decided probably to beat me. And the absentees come, and I lost by 300 votes. So that didn't get as far as politics. Went back to the radio, and then I got back to the radio, that I didn't like that anymore. That I could sell cars, I didn't like that anymore. I started raising cattle, I liked that a little bit. I got into the RSVP for I liked that very much. Got into the nursing home business, I liked that a lot. But I couldn't stand the people passing away. And then that's where I developed high blood pressure. Out of there. Then we went east. Judy opened a gift shop in Antique, we went east. Up Cape Cod. Beautiful area. Beautiful area. And I taught school at Helms High School in New Bedford, Mass. And then, the priest came to me and said, we're going to we want you to coach, but we're gonna close the school in 1 year. So I thought, well, a quick job. 1 year, coach, out of the job again. But at the same time, I put my name in at White's Institute. Now, I didn't know where White's was. I didn't know where Wabash, Indiana was, really. And so, I was coming home. Now, if you don't like this part, tough, but the last day of school, the priest came to me and said, "Clyde, we are going to close." I said, "Okay." And I thought to myself, what am I going to do now? And then I think about it. And I was driving down Mid-Cape Highway. I was not religious. I was not a Catholic. I was married in a Methodist church, so I'm going to say that I'm Methodist, but I wasn't religious. And as I got in the car and I got down the Mid-Cape Highway, and it wasn't dark, it was just getting dusk. And I said to myself in my driving, I said, what am I going to do? And you know there was a huge, I don't know if you ever had this experience, and it's hard for me to say this, because I don't want you to feel like that I'm saying something that you might say in your mind that I don't think that could have happened. But let me assure you that a huge illuminating light came in the car. Inner voice. I knew this would happen. Inner voice said, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." And you know, when I got down home, there was a letter from White's, and in that letter, or in that envelope, came out a brochure of some sort that was explaining what White's dealing with kids that were broken homes, or kids who were in trouble, coming to White's to change their attitude, their life, and so forth. And God was involved in this. And God was involved in this at White's. And when I came to White's, I think that 99.9% of the people there were all. I really believe that. But I read that little brochure, and I said, "Judy, where is it?" I have no idea. But listen, you know, Judy already gave her life to Christ a couple years before I did. And she said, "I'm going to pray about it." Well, I got a call from Mr. Curtis, Lou's daddy, and he called me back. We talked a little bit more, and he came to the point, like, what denomination are you? Now they're Quakers. Can you picture a Quaker? What a Quaker looks like? Oat, box, black, high hat. Now I'm thinking that that's what those Quakers out there are looking like. But he said, "What's your denomination?" And the only came out of my mouth was Catholicism, because I taught at Catholic high school. And there was a big pause. Now, I love Mr. Curtis, he's passed away, and God rest his soul, but it was a big pause on the phone. And he said, "I'll get back to you." And I know when people say, "I'll get back to you." It's a long, stretched out period that they don't get back to you. And he didn't get back to me. And as I said that he thought maybe if I get him hired at White's, I'm going to change all those 99.9 people to Catholic. But anyway, but I felt so strong that I packed my car up and loaded my clothes up and left my wife and kids back in the East Coast and came back to didn't have a job. I'm sitting with the chief of police, and this way I think the court, if you just trust him, he'll work things out for you. I was sitting there having lunch with the police. He came by the table and said, Clyde, and I graduated with her from Garfield. What are you doing? And I said, I just came back to town. You got a job? I don't have a job. She said, would you like to run the Helms Country? I said, I have no idea how to run the Helms Country Club. I said, I'll give it a whirl. I got the job. Make long story short, I was there about a year, White's Act, and then I thought, well, shoot, I'll just run for office again. So I ran for no business running for mayor of Terre Haute. But I did. I got 300 votes. I have at least 300 cousins and aunts and uncles in Terre Haute. I don't know if they all voted for me either, but that's all I got, and of course I lost. But then I was sitting in my apartment at Davis, and he asked me if I was still looking for a job. I said, yep. So I went to White's, met with a lot of people, and all the people I said that I believe that was a Christian organization, that 99% of mine was all Christian people. And in 1979, I played one more year like I wanted. In 1980, I gave my life to Christ again. At that time, it stuck. And I've been following him ever since. And whether you believe or not, I have no problem with that. But I know that the Lord has taken my life and took me from what I used to be in pro ball, which was very, very loose, and brought me to what I am today. And I've had more fun being a Christian. And from 1980 to right now, I had ball. And so I don't know how much time we got, but that sort of takes me from my mother on the dining room table to right now. I'm 84 years old, and I've enjoyed myself, and I enjoy coming and just talking. I don't know if you have any questions, because I hear stories, I hear all day, and now somebody told me, I think it was the Galleys, nobody is now, sometimes people bring their lunch and eat while people talk. Now, one little girl back there playing with the games. But anyway. Now, if you have any questions, I don't know how much time we got, but we got quite a bit of time. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than help answer you.
You said your mother had 4 boys.
Well, I think that, yeah, back then there was Bud, my oldest brother. He was also a railroader. He was my brothers died very young. I think 4 or 5 of the lockjaw. And the brother next to me, he was 6'4". So, we was all at 6'3s and 6'9s. So, we was bad. Well, Dad was, but he was hungry. Because he was riding down a railroad so long, and looking back a couple cars together, I guess. Sort of like this. But Dad was but he was old when I was born. Well, Mom was 5'10", and so they were, all the girls were 5'4", 5'5", 5'6". So we was all a pretty good family, and then when you got around that table, we ate pretty well. There was nothing left. No. Any other question that I got? Yes, sir.
I know when our son played college basketball, you helped Pat Cunningham as assistant. I wonder how much did you kind of help him out
couple of years, and that's teaching whites, but a couple of years, not so much assistant, but just sort of a guy that could help the big play and positioning and defense and things like this. And there was no money involved. It was all volunteer. But I enjoyed working with some college kids to see what they were like. Now, when I was up, I didn't tell you, I was up in Unison 10 years. And I coached the girls' basketball team and the boys' basketball team as an assistant. I enjoyed that very much too. I just came back to Indiana 3 years ago because I've been up there where they do have snow. 300 inches of snow a year. And when I came back home to Indiana, dusting and everything closed down. And I couldn't figure that out. But anyway, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Didn't you help with the summer programs?
Yes? Yeah.
Not my son, you had my son for,
Yes. Yeah, I used to go around quite a bit when I was younger, that I could move better. But yeah, we used to do that quite a bit. I enjoy helping the young people.
How many children?
I have 5. I just lost a son. So I have 1. And the one daughter got my height, she's 6'1", but the other's about 8, and one's 5, I think 6. And the boy took after his mother, he's about this high. He tried to play basketball, but he couldn't reach the net. So, yes, ma'am.
where do you live now?
I live in North Manchester. Woods Point Circle up there, right off. Condo, love it very much. Mostly the older people. I get along good with the older people. I didn't think I was that old until I woke up one morning and I was 84. I am getting older.
Mike, we haven't mentioned anything about the Olympics.
Oh, I won a gold medal in Helsinki, Finland, and Gene, you got
Underneath there.
Gene was going to take it. And
And I wasn't taking it
you,
permanent.
yeah, I think you had your hands pretty well around it. But this is a gold medal that we won in Helsinki, and I want you to look at it and pass it around. Now, these are smaller than the ones today. And there's more in that one than there are in the ones today. But that was 2. And we didn't have very much tough time. There were 7 Kansas people that went, 7 Kansas players that went, and 4 or 7 went from the amateur. Peoria, Caterpillars, and the Twins. And Fogg was the assistant coach. And Fred Womble, who was the coach at Peoria Caterpillars, he was the head coach. We played Russia twice, and that's when the Cold, of course, we was in that Cold War thing. And they were very, they wanted to be, you know, the Russian players. And of course, the American players, we didn't care particularly about if Russia didn't like us or Russia. We just wanted to whip them. And, twice. And we had one incident that was sort of like could be an international incident. This big Russian player that was playing against me, and we fought back and forth and pushed and shoved and thing. And so a loose ball came up. Now, China and Russia was on one arena, and the Americans and whoever liked us was on the other side. And we had wrestlers and we had boxers on our side and things like this. And a loose ball came, and I couldn't reach the ball quick enough. And so I happened to kick as hard as I could, and it missed the ball, but it caught him. And I should apologize, but I didn't. But the crowd on the one side was starting to move down towards the floor. And then our side moved down, and I thought, my goodness, we're going to have an incident right here on the court. But thank goodness, fog took us quickly off the floor. We went to the dressing room, and we came back and played the second half, and nothing happened. But that was the only time that I think we decided that we had a good time with the first one. We beat him twice. And then I came home, and I started my pro days. Yeah.
Clyde, you told me a story one time about almost missing part of the national tournament that you're out on.
Well, back in spring in Seattle, a friend of mine, who was a captain on the Coast Guard cutter, he invited me to dinner. And of course, you got to get permission from the coaches. And, be back in the service. And I said, fine. And so I went out on the cutter, and we were having dinner. Well, they had some kind of an alarm that we had to go, and so I went with them. And I don't know if I was legal to go with them, but anyway, I went with them. And we got out there, and I forget what we was doing, but fog rolled in. And we couldn't get back to the base, the dock. And we had to sit out there for a while. And the time is going on. My curfew was about ready to expire. And I was getting concerned about it. I had to get back. But anyway, I got back around midnight. And as I was coming into the lobby of the hotel, there was a newspaper man sitting there. I thought, holy Christ, I'm in trouble. And he's going to tell Fogg. And but he put his head down. He didn't even look up. Put his head down. Didn't recognize me. I didn't. And I went on into my room, the elevator went from my room, went to bed. And then he had us up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting prepared for the game in the afternoon. So we didn't get much sleep, but anyway, we won the game. I scored, I don't know, 30-some points that whole game. So everything worked out. But there were all kinds of stories after the tournament was over. So it was quite a deal. But it does happen sometimes. Yeah, Luke?
I remember as a kid, Clyde, watching you during kind of your heyday in the NBA, playing for St. Louis with Cliff Hagan and Bob Pettit and Slater Martin and that bunch. I don't remember ever seeing you shoot underhanded, but did you shoot underhanded free throws?
No. Now, in college, that was the only way that he would have let us shoot. Underhand. But in the pros, then you come back to the one-handed.
Okay, all right. That's what I thought. Somebody had told me that you had shot underhanded all through your pro career, and
No.
I just didn't remember that at all.
There was one player, Lou, that did shoot underhand. I can't remember his name, but he did shoot underhand in the pros. I can't remember who that was.
Rick Barry years later, but I don't know.
Well, maybe it was Rick. I don't know. No, I always shoot one-handed. Not in college, though. He wouldn't let me.
Just interested question. Times while you were in college.
Never played him.
Never played.
Never played him. In Kansas the next year in 50, and for the championship. And that's when Bobby Leonard was there, Don Slump. And yeah, they beat Kansas at the final game. We could have had back-to-back, but Indiana.
What was your favorite shot?
Shot was the one I developed when I was in Kansas. In high school, it wasn't too bad. I was pretty close to the rim. But the hook shot, and then just a sort of in the key of the circle, in the key, just a little turnaround, little jump. But most of mine was inside of that key in the court. And then when I got into the pros, then I developed an outside. And then with Cliff and myself at Bob Pettit, we changed from the pivot to a wing. And if I had the 3-point then I would score more points, because that's where I was shooting from. And that's where I could take Chamberlain, where I could take those guys out, and put Bob Pettit inside our cliff. But most was a hook. And then, of course, Russell, you couldn't shoot a hook shot with Russell. He just jammed it down your throat. So, we had a guy out of the league, Russell did. His name was Johnson. He was a leading scorer in the NBA for 2 or 3 years. And when Russell came in, I don't know who, you don't know who Russell is, but he's 6'10", could jump out of the building, and very good timing. And he was Johnson completely out of the league because all he had was a hook shot, lazy hook shot. And he never scored a lick on Russell. And after 1 year of doing it, he just gave it up. Any other questions?
Did you ever have a last second shot?
No, but I had a last second shot. One that sticks to me that really galls, and the championship game, Garden, to who was going to be our head coach. And we played Peoria Caterpillar. We were tied in seconds to go. And I stole the ball from Marcus Freeberg. And I threw the ball over his head. Here, I don't know where it went, but it went over his head. And I grabbed it and dribbled down the court. And I have 2 Kansas players, and I got a film of this that tears me up every time I look at it. 2 Kansas players on both sides. I could have dished the ball off to either one of them. They could have laid the ball in, and we'd have won. Me, I wanted to do it. I don't know why I do it myself, I guess. Took off 2 4 back. I took off at the free throw line, which is 10 feet from that basket. And I wasn't nearly, it bounced off there. Williams picked it up in Peoria, went down and took about 4 or 5 dribbles, the ball, and it went in. We lose. And I don't remember another one. I was pretty accurate. But I do remember that. That was awful. Well, I don't, yeah.
Especially with girls basketball, I know you didn't play girls basketball, but it's progressed.
Oh, the girls are about as rough as the guys anymore. I mean, they play well, and I enjoy watching them. And, but I don't watch the pros anymore because I can't, not because they make so much money, it bothers me. And of course, there's a big discussion about, you know, equal pay for everybody in the world, I guess. But I don't begrudge him anymore as far as making money. But I watch those guys play, and they don't play like they really enjoy it as much as we did. Now, and I could be prejudiced, but I just think that there's more dunking and driving down the middle. And there's one thing that you might dunk on me one. I'm not going to dunk on you every time. If you go up one way, you're down that same way. I don't know if you understand. But if you lay that ball up, and you might do that one time. But when you get up in the air the next time, you better look down because you're not coming down the same way you went up. But then, like, it's like you part the sea. And there's a 3 lane. If I have the ball, I don't want to get hurt. You know, they're $1 million ball players. Well, I wouldn't care if I was a $1 billion ball player or not. You got in, and in the court, defend it. Strong. Very mean. Be aggressive. But I don't think, they talk about the teams with the best defense. I don't see very much defense in the NBA, like it should be played. Because there's too much freedom coming through that lane. You know, and they walk, they travel, they forget the rules. I think they forget to call plays. The referees sort of suck in on the what's going on. That's my thing about the pros anymore. So I don't watch it. Good college game, good high school game, I'll have to watch those. Because they're still learning there. Any other questions? Not, I'm going to hang this up.
I just want to know where the Olympic. Body please until.
But anyway, thank you for enjoying very much. I don't know if that's what you wanted, Doctor.
That was
I
perfect.
enjoyed it.
You're talking about the Olympics, that was what I was thinking.